I did do some hazmat work. I worked for a fire department for 25 years. I became the person who ran their hazmat team for the state of Wisconsin. And it was when I worked for the hazmat teams that I realized how important, the environment is and how we respond to the environment, whether it's a chemical spill or even just like we do now, trash found in areas. Getting that picked up, getting it cleaned up and taken care of so it doesn't, lay out there and basically degrade and ruin the environment.
It's interesting. My experience with my background is a film critic. So my background is always learning about environmentalism through horror films especially. I mean, going back to George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, we talked so much about what we were doing to the earth, what we were doing. So you grew up in a time where it wasn't really even trendy to kind of be, we were post-hippies. So it was before, it was in this weird state. What did it feel like kind of working from that hazmat world to going to this? Talk about moving to Florida, moving to Tampa, and falling into being a wonderful environmentalist, I would say.
Oh, thank you. Well, to be truthful, when I started in the hazmat world, I wasn't sure what to think of it. But what I learned from emergency response and hazmat was people were very nervous. There's not a lot of hazardous material calls. There's a lot of fire calls. There's a lot of EMS calls. There's not a lot of hazmat calls. So what I learned were responders weren't really responding quick and they were nervous on what to do. Mm-hmm. So when I worked for the hazmat teams, I actually ended up teaching in the state of Wisconsin as well, many other teams on how to respond quicker because a quicker response leads to better outcomes. Less fuel laying around for hours or days on the soil for it to absorb has a better outcome. So once I was in it, then I was hooked.